Hello, happy Friday, and welcome to Sound Off with System One. I am your host, Allie Moen. We have a fantastic job seeker topic for you today on interview etiquette. But before we dive into that, a couple words about System One. System One is a leading provider of specialized, highly technical outsourced services and workforce solutions to critical infrastructure, technology, life sciences, and government sectors, putting more than 650 employees and 9,000 contractors to work in the United States, Canada, and the UK. Thanks so much for tuning in today for another broadcast of Sound Off with System One. As you're joining us, please jump into the comments. Let us know where you're joining from, what industry you work in, and if you have any questions you'd like to ask my panel of experts here about interview etiquette, put those in there as well. I do have Rich from our marketing team monitoring those comments, so we will try to get to as many questions live today as we possibly can. Before diving into the topic, I'm going to give my panel of experts an opportunity to introduce themselves and share a hot job that they're currently recruiting for. So Kevin, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Allie. Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Bueller in Kansas City with System One. Been with System One for a couple of years now and been in the IT staffing industry for over 20 years now. Focusing mostly in Kansas City as well as the Midwest area. My hot job today is an IT support analyst for one of my top clients in the Topeka area. This is a full-time direct hire position. This person needs to be on site 5 days a week, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Excellent benefits with this client of ours, and we've done several placements with this client, and it's a long-term opportunity. Great opportunity for someone.
Great. Thank you so much, Kevin. Kevin's job information can be found in the comments, and you can search his job opportunity by that job ID number by scanning the QR code at the top of your screen and by going to jobs.system1.com. Zach, let's head down to you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Allie. My name is Zach Shaw. I'm the VP of Business Operations for ALTA IT. ALTA handles a lot of IT staffing and consulting based in the DC area. And I actually sit in the Columbus, Ohio area. I've been in IT staffing for, almost 18 years now, the last 4 years with ALTA. And the position that I have today is a UX designer. It is a hybrid role, only has to be on site about 5 days per month. But the great thing about this is that they'll hire somebody in lots of different locations. So it could be New York, DC, Atlanta, Seattle, Chicago, Indianapolis, as well as a few other places. So go ahead and check that out online. But it's a UX designer that needs about 5 years of experience. Somebody who's really good at storytelling and working with both engineering and product teams. The pay on that is about 110, 112K.
Great. Thanks, Zach. And Melissa, let's go to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa McNally. I'm a senior recruiter at ALTA as well as Zach. I work primarily in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore market. It's my pleasure to join you today. I've been in IT recruiting for about 30 years, and I've been with ALTA for almost 11 years at this point. My hot job today is a mid-level systems engineer with a strong storage and backup infrastructure experience. It is 100% remote for a very respected health insurance customer. Very, very long-term, stable position, excellent benefits. If interested, feel free to contact me. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Melissa. All of these hot jobs can be found in the comments, dropped in there by Rich Weed. You can search those opportunities as well as all open jobs with System One and ALTA IT services at our career portal at jobs.system1.com or by scanning the QR code at the top of your screen. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic. So we'll have lots of great tips about interview etiquette. Again, if you have any questions for our experts, drop those in the comments. But to kick us off, Kevin, I'm going to come to you with my first question.
Great.
What are the key do's and don'ts when it comes to dressing for a job interview?
Good question, Allie. You can never be overdressed for a job interview. Even if the client or the customer is casual, I would come in, at least if you're a gentleman, come in collared shirts, slacks, make sure nothing's wrinkled or anything like that. And don't come in a hoodie, don't come in jeans, regardless of what the position is, especially in IT. Like I said, you can never be overdressed. and you never know who's going to show up and maybe in a suit or tie or something like that from the employer. So I'll always be collared shirt, slacks, nice shoes, not tennis shoes. And if you want to wear a sport coat for a gentleman, that's all right as well too.
Yeah, I think a great resource for all candidates who are interviewing, if you're working with ALTA or System One, talk to your recruiter. Ask them about the environment. Ask them for some tips to dress for the interview with that particular client. And if you're interviewing directly with a company, maybe you're not working with a third party recruiter. You probably are working with somebody there at the client. You can certainly ask them as well.
I concur with both Zach and Kevin on all those things. Other things to point out would be that dressing for an interview in appropriate attire doesn't necessarily not mean not showing your personality, but you should always err on professional modesty. Make sure you're tidy and clean, hair arranged neatly. Wear your best and make sure it's clean and pressed. Really, pay attention to your shoes. No open toe, don't wear flip-flops or sneakers, as Kevin mentioned, no hoodies or t-shirts or logo wear, try to keep everything very neutral. But you can have a little flair, but just, be professionally modest.
Absolutely. Professionally modest. Overdress is better than being underdressed. And Zach, I'm glad you kind of touched on talking to your recruiter. If you're working with one, if you don't know, they can give you some great advice, as you all here are providing our job seekers. They also have the ability to speak to a hiring manager or whoever you'll be interviewing with their client to ask about a specific dress code, how they should be dressed. So going in ahead of time what you need to be wearing there. So thank you all. Zach, let's come to you for question number 2. How important is punctuality, and what should candidates do if they're running late for an interview?
Yeah, I think punctuality is incredibly important. I'm not sure anybody's ever been turned down for a job if they were too early, but they've certainly lost out on opportunities if they showed up late to an interview. And I think that, again, punctuality is about respect, right? And respecting the people's time that you're meeting with. So, plan ahead, run a Google Maps, see how long it's going to take you to get there. Plan for extra traffic, plan for getting turned around, and just make sure that you're there early. Worst case, you can wait in your car for a few minutes, but you definitely want to make sure that you're there early or and then if you are running late, again, if you're working with a recruiter, call your recruiter, let them know so they can reach out to the client. If you're working directly with a company, call the hiring manager, let them know right away. Of course, things come up that are unavoidable. Sure that somebody's aware.
I agree with Zach. Everything you said. I would also plan on being 10 to 15 minutes early. You never know when you run into construction or an accident, or you might go to the wrong building and the entrance might be next door or something like that. I would always plan on being early. It's your first impression. Let's call it as it is. It's the first chance you can see a manager. You don't want to be late. And if by chance you are running late, most managers, most clients, most employers understand. But I would always have a phone call, have a number ready when you're going to the interview. And if it's a video interview, obviously get online early, test your computer, make sure it's working, make sure your camera's working, and all that stuff as well too. So you can get that second interview. So.
Another thing that could be particularly helpful, especially for in-person interviews, or if you map out your route ahead of time, and if possible, drive the route, know the traffic patterns, know what the parking situation is. If you take public transportation, same thing. You just want to be very familiar with the lay of the land beforehand, because you just don't want that extra stress of not being able to find a parking place, or perhaps the building has security, and once you've checked in at the front desk, you have to go back out to your car to put a parking pass in your window. You always want to make sure that you just leave some time. That also gives you a few moments to collect your thoughts and take a deep breath. You've done so much preparation for this interview. You want to make sure that you're, just able to have yourself composed at that last minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving yourself a little bit of a buffer is very important, even just so you might not be stressed or a little bit anxious if you are running late, you have that period to calm down a little bit before actually walking into the interview. So all great tips. Melissa, I'm going to stick with you for my next question. What are some common nonverbal cues that candidates should be aware of during an interview, such as body language and eye contact?
Sure. So the biggest thing I would recommend is, whether it's in person or virtual, is that you always want to maintain consistent eye contact and engagement with the interview team. Make sure that all of your devices are silenced. Your undivided attention should be on the interview team at all times. So show your interest in the conversation. It's been traditional, especially for in-person interviews, to have your pen and paper handy, take notes. Don't fidget. It's hard for me to not fidget, but try not to do it. When you're virtual, avoid extended glances away from the camera. For instance, if someone else perhaps is in the room, which we do not recommend, avoiding extraneous movements, or God forbid, avoid walking, driving, typing, shuffling papers, or anything, again, that divert your attention away from the crew.
Yeah, I can't stress eye contact enough. I've certainly worked with candidates in the past who were just uncomfortable with eye contact, and that can really show a lack of confidence in what what you're saying, and really detract from that. So just make sure you're keeping good eye contact with the interviewer, and if there are multiple interviewers, right, you kind of have to make sure that you're adjusting and looking at each person's eyes from time to time, and make sure you're focused on them.
I agree with Melissa and Zach. A couple other things is, I wouldn't cross your arms in an interview, especially in person. It's kind of a sign of being defensive or something like that. Also, come prepared with like a notebook and pen and paper, and so you're there to ask notes, have some questions available as well too. It shows how interested you are in the interview, as well as the opportunity for that being hired on there.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, as you're joining us today, if you have questions about interview etiquette, like this one that we have below, put those in the comments. Let's actually answer this question now. So experts, if any of you want to answer this from Dr. Norma Lynn, what would you recommend if you're doing a panel interview and they don't have their cameras on?
I don't mind answering if you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
So we see this sometimes with some of our technical interviews at one of our clients in particular. I warn the candidates ahead of time that this is a pattern, and really they need to almost pretend that the cameras are on. You need to maintain your professionalism and your image throughout the entire interview, despite what they might be doing on the other side of the camera. And yes, we would love everyone to have their cameras on, but I would just pretend as if you were looking at the panel, and maintain that engagement with the team that you actually don't see.
I agree with Melissa. I would continue with the interview, but also let the candidate hey, the next step, we're going to need a video. I'd be pointing direct with them and saying, hey, if you can get to a computer or somewhere where you can be on video, we were very interested in you, but we'd like to do a virtual or video interview for the next round.
Yeah, it can be a really awkward situation, I think, right? It kind of changes the power dynamics, I think, a little bit too. But if you're, as the candidate, if you're confident enough to leave your camera on when the interviewers are have theirs off, I think that can only be a benefit for you.
Yep, absolutely. Great tips and fantastic question. Thank you, Dr. Norma Lynn, for that one. So next question from me, let's go over to you, Kevin. Okay. What is the appropriate level of research a candidate should do about a company before an interview?
There is no limit on research. Obviously, you need to do research and be prepared to ask questions, show some common interest. You might even want to hop on LinkedIn to see if they went to the same school or they worked at a previous company that you did, or you might know someone that went to school with them. But also research the company and research their strengths and what industries they're in, who are their clients, who are their customers, who are their competitors. And so having all that information really impresses the employer.
So I'm going to say that there's not too much research that somebody can do on the company. And I think the professional research on the interviewer is fantastic. Where you want to be careful is getting into, too much personal stuff with the interviewer, like, looking at Facebook pages or Instagram or things like that. I've absolutely had situations where, candidates were turned down because the person conducting the interview felt a little freaked out, like they were being stalked with some of the personal information that was being brought up. So, make sure you keep it professional. Use LinkedIn. I think that's a fantastic tool. Research the company, research the job, but stay away from the really personal stuff.
Yep, I agree with Kevin and Zach entirely. Showing your interest and enthusiasm for the company is professional courtesy. It's not polite to go into an interview and not be aware of what the company does. And it would be surprised how many people don't take the time to do that research. It can really benefit you. Even just showing that you understand the types of clients that they support and perhaps some of their more recent news or press releases.
Yep, great tips. Zach, I think you said it. LinkedIn is a great tool for researching the company as well as who you're going to be interviewing with, but maybe avoid Facebook, Instagram. You don't need to walk in and ask how their Aunt Teresa's 50th birthday party was. That's not the connection that you need to make. So definitely avoid doing stuff like that. Thank you to all of you for those tips. Zach, let's come to you for the next question. Are there any specific etiquettes for virtual or video interviews that candidates should be following?
Yeah, I think there are quite a few. I'll hit on two. And one, I think, Kevin, you talked about a little bit earlier, right? So that's test the tool, test the video tool that you're going to be using, whether that's Teams, Zoom, whatever that might be. Again, if you're working with a recruiter, that recruiter will be more than happy to test that with you, just to make sure that the audio works, the visuals, fine, lighting's good, all that stuff. So technology is wonderful when it works, but it's incredibly frustrating when it does not work. So don't go into that interview not knowing if it's going to work or not. And then the second thing I would say is make sure that you have I would say a kind of a simple and professional background behind you. Allie, I know you and I have conducted some interviews together, and ones that stands out, not in a good way, was some pretty, I would say, unprofessional posters behind the candidate that were quite distracting.
Very unprofessional.
And definitely did not help that person who is not working for ALTA or System 1. So make sure you have a professional background behind you, and that'll make the person that you're interviewing with focus on you and what you're saying.
Yep, I agree with Zach. It's so critical to take the meeting from, if at all possible, from a desk or any quiet location, any table or any place without any distractions. There should be nobody else in the room. And we love kids and we love pets, but for this time, they just need to be sequestered and out of camera view and hopefully being quiet in another room. It's just really important also to have the neutral decorations, or just, nothing too polarizing. It's okay to be an individual, but just not something that could be maybe misinterpreted by anybody else on the other end. You just don't ever know how people feel.
I agree with both of them, or both of you guys. And also, be dressed like you're doing the interview in person. Just because you're doing the interview at home or a coffee shop doesn't mean you can come in a pullover and shorts. Be dressed like you're going to do this interview in person, collared shirt, slacks, and also kind of makes you feel professional as well, too. And it gives you, makes you good, makes you show your eagerness for this opportunity and for this position. So, but yeah, I would just, even though you might be in a comfortable environment, it's still an opportunity, a business opportunity, a career opportunity for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa, my next question is going to come down to you. What role does follow-up and thank you notes play in interview etiquette, and when and how should candidates send them?
Sure. So I love the post-interview thank you note. I think it's highly recommended, and it should be sent the same business day as the interview. When you're working through a recruiter, send that through your recruiter. Hiring managers typically meet numerous candidates throughout the interview process, and this could be one thing that could help you stand out amongst the pool. They're eager to make a prompt decision, and it just keeps your name at the top of the list as somebody that's interested, enthusiastic, and somebody that follows up. It can be a really brief note, just a few lines to, again, reiterate your enthusiasm and your interest. and why you feel like you'd be an excellent fit for the position. When you go through your recruiter, we can get it right to the manager, as we can't provide the hiring manager's contact information for their own confidentiality purposes.
I agree with Melissa. I would definitely have it done within 24 hours. If you're working with a recruiter, send it to that recruiter, and he or she can get it to that hiring manager within that day, if not within that hour. Also, make sure you proofread it. Sometimes you get a little comfortable and you start going so fast because you want to get it out so fast. The recruiter will also proofread it too. But if you're sending it directly to the manager, make sure you read it over a couple times and don't make it too lengthy. Don't bring up anything personal. Just tell them why you think you'd be a great fit for this job and great fit for this company. 3 or 4 sentences, maybe 5 at the most, just short and sweet. And that's all it takes. Like Melissa was saying, they interview a lot of people for these positions. So you want to stand out, but you want to stand out positively, and just keep it short and sweet.
Absolutely. I agree with both of you. Short and sweet. I know thank you notes that I've received after interviews, if they put in a line or two about something specific that we talked about during the interview, I think that stands out to me. They recalled what we discussed. It was something that stood out. They're kind of giving me that reminder. And there's that little bit of a personal connection there. If that's the only thing that they talk with me about and not another member of my team, that's something important to note as well. So my last question for the group, Kevin, we will have you kick that off. How should candidates handle job rejection and feedback after an interview? And is it appropriate to ask for feedback if they don't automatically receive it?
So I would not get disappointed for feedback or rejection. You never know. They might think you're a good fit for another position. You might be the runner-up and that first candidate might not work out, or there might be a second opening for that same position. So, and ask them why. Why wasn't I a good fit? Or try to get some feedback as well too. And then, but take it. Don't act disappointed. Don't act. Don't get mad or irritated or frustrated. Just if you want to work for that company, it could be a great opportunity into another position there.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, Zach, you're up.
Oh,
Sorry.
Either one of you can go.
problem.
It's live.
Yeah. So, passing along a rejection is one of the hardest things that we have to do as recruiters. It's certainly not anything that we enjoy. And nobody wants to be rejected for a position either, right? So kind of handle your emotions. You can certainly express your displeasure in a professional manner with the recruiter. But then, let's focus on moving on. Let's focus on how we can get better, right? How we can improve for the next interview that's coming. So yeah, absolutely ask for feedback and see, how you can take some of that feedback and, make your next interview more successful.
We'll always strive to provide feedback for you, and we would love to have very detailed feedback from every interview and from every manager. But a lot of times the managers just don't provide it. And again, they're moving at many hundreds of miles per hour and have a lot of candidates. So, they kind of get through the process and pick their top person. It's extraordinarily difficult to go back and provide detailed feedback for every candidate. We're happy to provide you with whatever information we can gather, and it definitely helps. I think as long as you keep the discussion between you and your recruiter and always maintain yourself as constructive and professional, that's really what will come across very positively. Negative situations often show your character. So if you can navigate yourself through things that didn't go quite the way that you planned, that's something that will help you shine and helps you grow, I think, not only for this particular situation, but for others.
Yep, absolutely. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you. So thank you, Kevin, Zach, and Melissa, for being on my panel of experts today. Thanks to everyone who tuned in for Sound Off with System 1. We love being back here on the first and third Friday of every month with our job seeker topics to provide you with a lot of great insight and advice as you're going through your job search. Please connect with all of my experts. Their information is in the comments. Give System 1 as well as ALTA IT Services a follow on LinkedIn. You'll be able to find a lot of great resume and interview tips, leadership insights, success stories, and more there, as well as on our YouTube channel. Lots of great videos, including all of our past Sound Off with System 1 segments. So join us next time, Friday, November 17th, where we will be talking about developing and maintaining your personal and professional brand. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.